Hello all my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome or welcome back to another edition of this or that and sometimes the other thing. Well, in the last couple of weeks we've been talking about shell stitches and fan stitches, and I've had lots of questions about those, and I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. Now, after that, I started getting questions about, well, what about V-stitches? How many of them are there? And how can you use them? And what are they good for? And and are they tall? Are they short? Are they open? And the answer to all that is just yes. V-stitches are one of my favorite stitches to work with. I do love shell stitches. I love fan stitches. But V-stitches are one of my favorite stitches. I think it's one of the first stitches that I learned after I learned the basics of crochet. And so what I want to talk about today is just basic V-stitches and also different types of V-stitches. There's a cluster V-stitch. There is a double V-stitch. There's twin V-stitches. And then there's V-stitches that you can do with any stitch. Like you can have a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, a triple, a quadruple. Anytime, any stitch can be a V-stitch, as long as you put a chain 1 or chain 2 in between. Now, if that isn't confusing, there are even more types of V-stitches than we could ever count. Before I go and do the demonstration here, I do want to tell you that I love reading all your comments. I love when you ask me questions, and I also love when I have the answers. But if you ask me a question and I don't have the answer, I will do everything I can to find you an answer, okay? So please comment underneath this video in that comment section there. And also, sometimes I may have already answered that question, and so you can check out the YouTube list. That is the This and That YouTube list. And it's a playlist with all the videos that I've done, answering questions, and also lots of other things. Some are demos and different things like that. Because we're all at a different place in our crochet journey, and we have different questions and different things come up. And I may have already answered that question, so if you ask that question, I may reference you to that video. But also, I've got a whole playlist of this and that questions that have been answered and things like that that are really interesting. So I really encourage you to go and click on the playlist for this and that, okay? Because it does. I've answered a lot of questions in there. And I love that I have that I can, like, if someone asks me a question about something, I can go find that link and give you the link as well. Okay? All right, let's go over to the other camera, and I'm going to do a quick demo on V-stitches. I have grabbed the same swatch that I have been using lately, and I've got two different colors of yarn here. And that's just to help you see how the stitches should look. The first thing we're going to talk about is your basic V-stitch. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab this lavender. And these are just medium weight number 4 acrylic yarns that I had in my yarn stash. I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. All right, and then I'm just going to move that out of the way there. And now I'm just going to stitch a couple of double crochets just to get us to, into the fabric. Okay, so now, let's say I want to do some just basic V-stitches. All right, so the basic V-stitch is usually worked with 3 stitches like this. You skip this one, you double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch. Try that again. There we go. All right, and that's your basic V-stitch. All right, now a V-stitch can also be a half double crochet. So we'll skip the next one and we'll do a half double crochet V-stitch. And that's if you want one that's a little bit shorter. Okay? Well, what if you want it even shorter? We'll skip the next, we'll single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. So now you've got a double crochet, a half double crochet, and a single crochet. But what if you want it really tall? 2 wraps, skip that, and we're doing our triple stitch, chain 1 and triple stitch, all worked in the same stitch. So now it's really tall. Well, let's say you want to work a more lacier V-stitch because these are going to be close together. Well, you can chain 1, you can skip 2, you can do your, this is just a double crochet V-stitch here, chain 1, and you can also, if you want to, chain 2 so that it's even more open of a V-stitch. Okay, and then you'll skip 2. I'll do another one just so you can see how it looks when it's stitched lacy. Okay, and so these are just some basic V-stitches. Your double crochet, your half double crochet, single crochet, here's your triple, and then here I did some open with one chain 1s in between. And you can even spread that out more and have chain 3 and skip 3. It's up to you or what the pattern says, okay? And so those are just some basic V-stitches. All right, now I'm just going to pull this so it doesn't come out, and I'm going to bring my pink one back in over here just so we can work from the same direction, okay? But when we're stitching our row, where do we put the V-stitch? I had this conversation not that long ago with a very sweet lady, and she discovered that she'd been putting her V-stitch in the wrong spot on the V-stitch. Okay, so I'm just doing these, I missed my first double crochet there. Let's go in the chain 3. There we go. And I'm using a different color yarn just so that you can see. Make it a little easier to see, okay? So here's my chain 3 and my 2 double crochets. And I'm just doing this at the end to get us going, okay? So, in the discussion with this sweet young lady, I should say sweet older lady, she discovered that she was putting her second row of V-stitches in the wrong place, okay? So here is your double crochet V-stitch. What we usually do is we stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch, and that keeps the V-stitches going. So I'm just stitching a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch. We think that's common sense, right? Well, what she had been doing, and I'll go to this half double crochet one, is instead of putting it in the chain 1 space, she was putting it in the chain 1 and couldn't figure out why her V-stitches didn't look like mine. Okay? And so you can see it looks completely different. This one is stitched in the chain 1, this one is stitched in the chain 1 stitch. And it doesn't open up the V-stitch. Okay, so that was she wanted that question answered. All right, so I had another question, and it was, what is a cluster V-stitch? All right, so what is a cluster V-stitch? I've brought the pink in here. I'm going to just do 2 stitches like I did on the first row here. Okay, and so what a cluster V-stitch is you're going to do a cluster, a chain 1, and a cluster in the same stitch. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip 2 here and make a chain 1 just so that you can see it very clearly, okay? So a cluster, oops, we're going to skip 1, we're going to go to the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then we'll do that again. And you can do a 2 double crochet cluster or a 3 double crochet cluster. There's your cluster, chain 1, and then you do another cluster. I'm going to chain 1 so that you can see that and see how that makes the cluster. You've got a cluster, a chain 1, and a cluster, okay? And I've always called this, I learned this as the heart stitch. When I was first learning, that's what the book that I was learning from called that, because it looks like a heart. When you come back through, let me grab the purple so that you can see. Okay, I'm just going to go right in this chain 3 here. just so that you can see. I'm going to go the same direction. We don't normally join this way. Okay, so I'll go ahead and double crochet in those two. I'll chain one, and I'm doing that chain one, and I do that sometimes in my patterns, but I'm doing it here so that you can see clearly what it should look like. All right, so you're going to come over to your chain one space of your cluster, and you're going to stitch a cluster. Let me get that loop out of the way there. And a cluster can be 2, 3, or even 4 of the double crochet clusters. Depending on what you're making, you can do triple stitch clusters. You can do half double crochet clusters. That's the neat thing about crochet, is it can be lots of different ways, okay? And so see how that looks like a heart? Because we did a cluster in a cluster. But it's also considered a shell stitch, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and chain one again, just so we have some space so you can see. And all it is, I'm going to skip 2 just so you can see. And all it is you stitch 2 double crochets in the same stitch, chain 1 and 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And I'll go ahead and chain again. And you can see it does look similar, but not the same, okay? And when you come across on your next row, you'll go right to that chain 1 space and do 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. There we go. Pull those loops so I don't lose my loops. But see, it looks similar but not the same. This is our cluster V-stitch. This is our double V-stitch. And this is also referred to as an open shell. So that's where some patterns will call it one thing and other patterns will call it something else. Now another V-stitch that people do, and I think is really cool, is called a twin V-stitch. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going right here. I'm going to go ahead and chain 2 just to space them out. And what you would do is in the next stitch, you'll stitch a V-stitch, then you'll go in the next stitch and stitch a V-stitch. And then you might chain 1 or 2 and skip and do that again. And so you're doing 2 sets of your V-stitches, or I should say 1 set of 2 of your V-stitches. I'm just chaining 2 for space. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Depends on the pattern, how much space is in between. But I'm doing it this way, again, just so that you can see. All right, and then when you come through with your next row, you'll go to the chain 1 and stitch another V-stitch. And it makes a really pretty pattern. Oh, I got a tangle here. There we go. All right, then I'll go to my next V-stitch and stitch a V-stitch. My lavender's being uncooperative here. I'm going to chain 2, then I'll go to the next V-stitch. And most of the time, as I say, unless the pattern says differently, you're going to stitch your V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the previous V-stitch once you get your row going. Now at the beginning, of course, you don't, because you're spacing it out and getting it ready for the pattern. And there are several different ways that patterns set them up. Sometimes they'll just do 2 stitches and have you stitch between them, and then sometimes it'll be a row, you know, and different ways. And V-stitches can be combined with shell stitches and lots of other stitches to make beautiful patterns. Okay, and so this is what's called the twin V-stitch pattern. And so you see there are lots of different ways to do V-stitches, just like there's lots of different ways to do shell stitches and fan stitches. And don't, again, get caught up in the fact that they're named different things. You know, like this, we call it sometimes a shell stitch, sometimes a double V-stitch. Sometimes this is called the heart stitch. Sometimes it's called a cluster V-stitch. Okay? And when I first learned this, they called it a double V-stitch. Now they call it twin V-stitches. And it's okay. I don't care. Like I always say, I don't care what you call the stitches, just stitch. Well, I hope the demonstration was helpful to you and it was able to answer your questions. And remember, if you have a question, don't feel bad about asking. I will do everything I can to find an answer. Okay? And V-stitches are so much fun, and they can be used together and in so many different ways. Adding V-stitches to shell stitches and fan stitches, or adding V-stitches to other places. I mean, they're just a beautiful stitch. You can make scarves and hats and blankets and pillows and clothing and lots of things with all these different styles of V-stitches. And, you know, people always ask, well, how many V-stitch, patterns are there? There's a gazillion, because we love them. It's like shell stitches and fan stitches. There are just so many kinds of stitches that you can use together and in combination with others and come up with new stitches. And when I say stitches, I'm talking about new stitch patterns all the time. It's so much fun. That's one of the best things about crochet. And I say this all the time. Crochet is an ever-growing art. Always new yarns, new stitches, new ways of doing things. And we're always learning lots of things. And always have a learning heart. Oh, I'm telling you, if you get stuck and you think, oh, it has to be called this, or I can only use this pattern for this thing, don't get stuck there. Art is using your imagination. And same thing with colors. Don't get stuck thinking, I have to make Christmas patterns red and green, or I have to make spring patterns pink and yellow. You don't. You use whatever colors you want to, whatever your favorite colors are. I love yellow, and I put yellow in lots of different places. Alrighty, so I guess you have to be a little bit of a crochet rebel, huh? There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, I'm ornery. My mother always said that. Anyway, I want you to love crochet like I do. I want you to love yarn like I do. And I don't want it to ever be frustrating or hard for you. I want you to love it. And feel free to ask questions, and don't feel bad if it's a question people have already asked, because we're all at a different place in our crochet journey. And I say that all the time as well. All right, so I'm going to leave you with this. Stay calm and crochet on. Well, I'll see you next time for another edition of this or that or the other thing.